I live in Guangzhou. It's the second largest city in the municipality. There are roughly 3 million people, but it's not developing as fast as the big city. But it does experience a lot of the residual economic development effects. So this place is kind of like a testing ground for the government to try out new economic models, and they've been working. So wages have risen in the past 25 years. Quality of life has risen higher than most of the places in China. So this is why a lot of people are coming in and out, just for work opportunities. I'm in the southern district of the city. It's called Baby Dragon. When you translate it, so it's the industries that are present in Baby Dragon are there's construction material storehouses, like car dealerships, there's residential areas, community gardens, and there's also the chemical factory district. So this is a pretty Chinese, section of it's a pretty good example of what's going on in China right now. Peace Corps China is not the same as other Peace Corps sites. It's very different. It's on the far end of how things are, I think, across the board. When I got there, I had everybody in China teaches English, which is not. I don't think it's very common for Peace Corps countries. It's bigger in China, so over 2 years, I taught 856 students. Some teachers have 300 students in one class. Yeah, and a lot of us, that are in Peace Corps, we come probably you guys will be coming right out of school, and so you're you don't have a lot of experience doing things in the real world, and so it's kind of a big task. But I fortunately didn't have that situation, but I think they'll be able to adjust. I want to talk about the 3 things that I thought were small successes in my service. In China, your primary project is the thing you go to your country to do. So in China, for me, it was teaching English, and teaching English isn't what's in the deepest parts of my soul. It's not a passion. So, my students are great. They're hilarious. This student, he decided to bring a baby duck to class. And so when I come over to look at, see what's going on, why do you have a duck on your desk? He's he has 11 more ducks in a box on the desk. Yeah, so it is totally, for him, it's totally normal. A lot of my students are from the countryside, which is much different than the American countryside. They're it's education is very different and opportunities are different. So maybe having livestock and stuff in the class is not that far out of it's okay. For my secondary projects, these really are where I found my success. I love teaching English. They're hilarious. But so where I wanted to or kind of I guess integrate my passions with my service was done all in my secondary projects. So I have a passion for the environment. It's been something I've grown up with, and I really wanted to actually be an environmental volunteer, but I didn't get that opportunity. So I had to do it outside of club. So the first thing I did was I started a hiking club. Right outside of my school, in the district, there's tons of mountains and trails and all that stuff. I found out my students, they all like hiking. So what I did is I wrote up a little club constitution where it was one, if you're going to come to this thing, you have to speak English. You cannot speak Chinese. And 2, you cannot litter. Because my students have a horrible problem with littering. When you're in the city, you can just throw it on the ground, your trash on the ground, someone will pick it up. But when you're in the countryside, when you throw it on the ground, nobody picks it up. So the countryside is collecting garbage, and it's not very pretty. So I integrated both of my primary objective and my secondary objective, which is the environment, into these projects. And for the first class first trip I had 30 people, to go take a hike. That's a lot of people to manage. And then I realized, the second, third, and fourth, and fifth, and sixth times that maybe 8 to 10 people were okay, so I adjusted my amount of people I was taking out. Another thing, I was very fortunate, and I had other volunteers at my site. Actually, no, I had 6 in my city, which is an abnormal amount. So what we could do is we could combine our secondary projects and then work together from there. So for this one, I combined some of my students with some of the volunteer in my city students. And so we got to some things. So the second thing I'm going to tell you about is this thing called Eco Camp. It was a program started by volunteers before I got to China. I think we did the fourth session. But essentially, what we did is we collected donations from Americans and NGOs and stuff like that to fund a bunch of students from around China to come to one of the cities and learn about the environment and study English. There's two groups in the camps were 3 days each. It's probably like 80 students total. So we brought them to an organic farm and we taught them English and then like some, environmental technology and stuff like that. So one thing we did is we brought in a local expert from an NGO in Chengdu, which is a city south of China. So we identified leaders at our campuses and we picked them out. So maybe they could bring back the knowledge they learned at EcoCamp to their schools and share what they learned. So just for example, one thing that we showed them about, this is called, you guys have to remember this, but it's called a biogas digester. It's a way to take combustible gas from manure and reuse it. One thing I got to do was I got to travel. As a teacher, we have summers off. So one thing that's very common for China volunteers to do is go visit their students in their hometowns. So this is very common. Like almost everybody does it at least once. So I went to see one of my students in his hometown. His name is Prestige. I think it's a direct translation of his name. I took a bus out to his village. It's like 9 hours outside of the capital city. It's like in the countryside of the countryside, like way tucked back into valleys. And it's also like the most beautiful place I've ever been to. Like at the bottom of this valley, there's crystal clear creek. And in this little valley, like single individual clouds like float through slowly. This is his like kind of patio, so you can just watch it from there. As you can see, his family grows corn for some of the season. And so the thing is though, what he was telling me is that his like only goal in life is to get a highway that the government had promised to be built through this valley here, because people in rural China are very poor, and he wants to bring economy to his little village. So the only way that this is possible, because it's so far back in the countryside, is to have the highway. So his plan is to use the natural beauty from his village to hopefully attract tourism. But they need the highway first. So this is just like a story that I pulled out of this experience, I think. And also village life is very different. So when you guys get out to site, and hopefully you're in a place where you can experience this, but it's a different mentality. It's very strict. I mean, I had a lot of time as a teacher, so one thing I started doing is I started rock climbing. Yeah, I've always wanted to rock climb, and so China recently they've been developing a lot of rock climbing stuff. So I just decided to go out with some friends that knew how to do it, and I spent 2 years climbing. And so it's just another additional part to my service that I thought was successful. I think it made my service very meaningful to integrate my passions and then secondary projects. Because you could love your primary project, it's a very good chance that you will, but I did it, and this is one way to make myself, to have what I think is a successful service.